Louis van Gaal, the manager who dropped his trousers in front of world-class players and compared hair-pulling to bedroom activities on live television. Louis van Gaal, the Dutch tactician who treated football like his personal psychology experiment. The infamous naked motivation actually happened at Bayern Munich. According to striker Luca Toni, Van Gaal literally showed his private parts to prove he had the courage to drop any player. The coach wanted to make clear to us that he can drop any player. It was all the same to him because, as he said, he had the balls. He demonstrated this literally by dropping his trousers. I have never experienced anything like it. It was totally crazy. Luckily, I didn't see a lot because I wasn't in the front row. But Van Gaal's weirdest moment came during a live Sky Sports interview after Marouane Fellaini elbowed Robert Huth. When asked about the incident, Van Gaal physically grabbed the reporter's hair and delivered this absolute classic.
Reaction, when I grab your hair is much shorter than Fellaini, but when I do that, what are you doing then?
He can't react like that though, can he? With elbowing another player.
I think that's a normal reaction. Every human being who is grabbed with the hair, only with sex masochism.
He said this completely straight-faced, while tugging a journalist's hair on live television. Then there was his theatrical dive on the Old Trafford touchline. Upset by watching Alexis Sanchez go down easily, Van Gaal decided to mimic the Arsenal forward by flopping to the floor on the touchline in front of fourth official Mike Dean.
And Louis van Gaal obviously irritated there by what he considers to be a dive by Alexis Sanchez. Oh my goodness! Now he's on the loose. Over what just happened to Louis van Gaal. Oh, here he is! Can you believe this, man?
That was too emotional. It is not good for the referee, the linesman, the fourth referee. Van Gaal admitted afterward, but the damage was done. His press conferences were linguistic minefields. He once told his players they needed to be horny to beat Midtjylland.
Desire, hungry. And a lot of times I use the word horny to my players. It's true, isn't it?
Called Chris Smalling, Mike Smalling, for reasons nobody understood.
And last year the third captain was Mr. Mike Smalling.
Chris, could I?
Oh, Chris, sorry.
When a journalist irritated him, he allegedly called him Fat Man and stormed out.
Don't? You. Oh yeah, you too.
All right.
Thank you.
Van Gaal's entire philosophy was built on controlled chaos. He'd spend 30 minutes explaining why a throw-in was tactical genius, then substitute a goalkeeper in the 120th minute of a penalty shootout just to mess with everyone's heads. During his United unveiling, he introduced himself by saying, "I am who I am. I am Louis van Gaal," which sounds like something a Bond villain would say, before revealing his master plan. His methods were questioned, his substitutions baffled fans, but somehow Van Gaal won trophies everywhere he went. Apparently, weird works. Paolo Di Canio. This fascist-saluting Italian manager literally banned ketchup, mayonnaise, mobile phones, ice in drinks, coffee, sugar, and even singing in showers at Sunderland. Paolo Di Canio turned a Premier League training ground into a military academy with dietary restrictions. His exact words about mobile phones: "If someone comes inside with a mobile phone, even in their bag, I'll throw it in the North Sea." Players couldn't use condiments because Di Canio believed it showed weak character. Ice in drinks was banned because apparently real men drink lukewarm beverages. Even singing in the shower was forbidden because it disrupted concentration levels. The political controversy was real. Di Canio openly stated, "I'm a fascist, not a racist," in 2005, and had a Mussolini tattoo on his back. His appointment at Sunderland caused David Miliband to immediately resign as vice-chairman, and the Durham Miners Association demanded their banner be removed from the stadium. Danny Graham revealed the extent of Di Canio's control. We went to Italy for 9 days and we had to eat the pasta that came out. There was no variety or anything. Whatever he had, we had. There were no sauces, nothing. The rebellion was real. According to John O'Shea, several players made a stand following a 3-0 defeat to West Brom and complained to the club hierarchy about Di Canio's brutal and vitriolic criticism. Phil Bardsley's girlfriend called him a psycho drama queen on social media after he disciplined 7 players in 1 week. Di Canio lasted exactly 13 games. His reign ended faster than most Netflix series get cancelled, and probably for similar reasons. Nobody could figure out what they were watching.
José Mourinho. Meet the self-proclaimed special one who hid in a laundry basket to avoid UEFA bans and turned psychology into art. José Mourinho didn't just manage football teams, he orchestrated elaborate mind games that belonged in a spy thriller. The exact quote was, "Please don't call me arrogant, but I'm a European champion and I think I'm a special one." A nickname that the media glued themselves to throughout his various managerial stints in England. The laundry basket story is bizarre but true. Mourinho admitted it in 2019. Stuart Bannister, the kit man, put me in the basket. It was a little bit open so I could breathe, but when he was taking it outside the dressing room, the UEFA guys were following and desperate to find me, so he closed the box and I couldn't breathe. When he opened the box, I was dying. I'm serious, I was claustrophobic, I promise. John Terry confirmed it happened, adding that Mourinho still looked $1 million with perfect hair when he popped out of the basket. This was during Chelsea's 2005 Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, where Mourinho was serving a 2-match UEFA ban. His touchline antics were legendary. He poked Barcelona assistant coach Tito Vilanova in the eye during a heated El Clasico in 2011. At Manchester United, he'd kick water bottles in frustration when things weren't going his way. During his time at Tottenham, he was caught on camera demanding that Raheem Sterling get a second yellow card for diving, gesturing wildly at the referee like a man possessed. But perhaps his most iconic moment came after a defeat, when he held up 3 fingers and declared,
"Do you know what this means? 3-0. But also mean 3 premierships, and I won more premierships alone than the other 19 managers together. 3 for me and 2 for them. Respect, 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 man, respect.
It was peak Mourinho, turning a loss into a reminder of his past achievements while simultaneously playing the victim and throwing shade at his critics. His press conferences were masterclasses in deflection and mind games. He'd praise opponents so much it sounded like psychological torture, or create controversy out of absolutely nothing. During his Manchester United tenure, he'd praise players in press conferences, then freeze them out completely, creating drama where none existed just to keep everyone guessing.
Harry Redknapp.
Here's a man who accidentally became football's most honest confession booth. During a court trial, Harry Redknapp casually mentioned that he couldn't read or write properly, as if this was just normal small talk for someone who'd been making £1 million transfer decisions for decades. Redknapp did acknowledge literacy difficulties during his 2012 tax evasion trial, though the extent varies in different reports. But perhaps the most bizarre detail to emerge from that trial was that he'd allegedly opened a bank account in Monaco under his dog Rosie's name. Only Harry Redknapp could make a tax evasion case sound like a comedy sketch. What's undeniable is his wonderfully chaotic approach to transfers. He did sign players based on minimal scouting. The street juggling story captures his impulsive nature, though specific details vary. He famously signed Jermaine Defoe at West Ham without watching him play a full match, purely on recommendation and brief glimpses. Redknapp's transfer strategy seemed to involve equal parts intuition, impulse, and complete randomness. When it worked, he was a genius. When it didn't, well, at least the stories were entertaining. He absolutely hated being called a wheeler-dealer, a term for managers who constantly buy and sell players, doing deals for the sake of doing deals rather than tactical reasons. His exact quote,
"You've made your name as a wheeler and dealer. There's not been much wheeling and dealing here."
No, I'm not a wheeler and dealer. No.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that.
But here's the thing, he absolutely was a wheeler-dealer.
We need a striker and I need a left winger. Just get hot.
top goalkeeper. Start with a goalkeeper, get that right, and we've got a chance. I'm going to play with 3 up front this year. We need goals. How about Defoe and Drogba? Big and Litland, perfect combination. Listen, I know it's a lot for a centre-back, but he scores goals as well from set plays. I'd like Yaya Toure in behind Bale and Modric in midfield.
Redknapp had a bizarre habit of signing the same players multiple times for different clubs. He signed Jermaine Defoe 3 times across different clubs, Peter Crouch twice, and Nico Kranjčar followed him around like a loyal puppy from Portsmouth to Tottenham to Queen's Park Rangers. It was like he had a small black book of about 15 players and just recycled them wherever he went. Redknapp's press conferences were legendary because you never knew what he'd accidentally reveal.
You know, I've got no need to deflect a result today away from what, you know, and like I was supposed to have done last week, which was the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard anyone say in my life, ever.
He'd casually drop bombshells about his transfer methods or admit to tactical decisions that would make other managers cringe.
Fit to play football, unfortunately. He played in a reserve game the other day, and I could have run about more than he did. So, no, I can't pick him. I pick people that want to try and deserve to be at a good football club like QPR.
His honesty was both refreshing and dangerous in an industry built on spin. While other managers stuck to media-trained soundbites, Redknapp would inadvertently expose the chaotic reality of football management, the impulse signings, the gut feelings, the complete randomness that sometimes passes for strategy at the highest level.
Kevin Keegan, the manager who had a complete emotional breakdown on live television during a title race. Keegan managed like he was permanently one coffee away from a complete meltdown, and sometimes that coffee arrived mid-interview. His legendary rant about Sir Alex Ferguson during Newcastle's title race wasn't just passionate. It was pure, unfiltered emotional chaos, broadcast live to millions.
And he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
This wasn't tactical analysis. This was a man having a very public breakdown while cameras rolled. Ferguson had gotten so far into Keegan's head that the Newcastle manager was basically arguing with himself on television. That outburst captured everything about Keegan's management style. Pure emotion over calculation. He managed with his heart, which meant incredible highs and devastating lows, often within the same press conference. Keegan's Newcastle played the most entertaining football in Premier League history, scoring goals like they were going out of fashion, and defending like they'd never heard of the concept. They played with the tactical discipline of a pub team, and the attacking flair of Brazil's greatest sides. It was beautiful, chaotic, and completely unsustainable. His first stint at Newcastle ended when he quit because the board wanted to sign a player without consulting him. Not because they signed the wrong player, but because they didn't ask his permission first. Keegan treated football management like a personal relationship, and when trust broke down, he walked away rather than try to fix it. Ian Holloway. Imagine if a stand-up comedian accidentally became a football manager, and you've got Ian Holloway.
The man's just unplayable, and this header, you know, talking about the skill he's got, you know, it's all right in being slaughtered week in, week out for his size, but a lot of that's just power and weights, and, you know, yeah, he does eat the odd bit, I'd imagine. I heard he had a twin and he ate him, but, you know, he's just brilliant. I think they'll be loving him. Kyle, sorry, calm down. Kyle.
This man didn't just give press conferences, he performed one-man philosophical comedy shows that somehow made football tactics sound like domestic advice columns. Holloway once compared buying players to shopping for furniture. You wouldn't buy a sofa without sitting on it first, would you? He described a player's goal as being like a piece of toast falling butter side down. It just shouldn't happen that often. When discussing team selection, he actually said, if you keep a ferret in a cage, don't expect it not to gnaw its leg off. These weren't prepared jokes, this was just how Holloway's brain worked. His analysis of Cristiano Ronaldo's diving was pure poetry. Watching him go down was like being hit by a feather. He'd deliver these lines completely straight-faced, as if comparing world-class athletes to household objects was perfectly normal managerial behaviour. Holloway saw football through the lens of domestic analogies and animal behaviour, creating a completely unique commentary style that made even the most boring tactical discussions sound like surreal performance art. Journalists would attend his press conferences not for football insight, but for entertainment value. His teams reflected his personality, unpredictable, entertaining, and slightly chaotic. His Blackpool side played with the tactical structure of a Sunday League team and the attacking ambition of peak Barcelona. They scored spectacular goals and conceded even more spectacular ones, turning every match into complete chaos.
Nigel Pearson, the manager who called a journalist an ostrich, strangled an opponent on the touchline, and fought off wild dogs in Thailand. Nigel Pearson proved that you could be weird in completely unexpected ways. The infamous ostrich incident happened in April 2015 after Leicester's 3-1 loss to Chelsea, when the club was deep in a relegation fight. Journalist Ian Baker asked Pearson about criticism of Leicester's performances that season, but Pearson felt the reporter hadn't been paying attention to Leicester's recent run of form. They'd actually won 4 of their previous 5 matches before losing to Chelsea. During a match against Crystal Palace, he was caught on camera appearing to grab an opposition player by the throat on the touchline. Most managers stick to shouting and gesturing, but Pearson went full WWE. Perhaps most bizarrely, Pearson once fought off wild dogs while hiking in Thailand. This isn't a metaphor for difficult transfer negotiations. He literally battled actual wild animals during his vacation. The man approached leisure time with the same intensity he brought to football management. When questioned about his ostrich comment later, Pearson claimed it was just banter, because nothing says friendly conversation like comparing members of the media to African wildlife. Brian Clough. He called himself Old Big Ed, punched his own players in training, and slapped fans who invaded the pitch. While technically before the Premier League era, Brian Clough's influence loomed large over everything that followed.
Well, to be fair, it's kept me awake for about 4 or 5 nights in the last 3 months, every week. And I don't know how we're bottom of the Premier League, but we are bottom. You've got to be realistic. We are bottom of the Premier League. It's as simple as that. And until we get away from the bottom, Raymond, people like you will continually and perpetually, and whatever the words are, will keep asking me these questions. But we've got to get away from the bottom of that league. I am sick of being bottom of that league.
Clough backed up his arrogance with actual results, winning everything while behaving like he was running a personal entertainment company. He'd punch his own players during training sessions, not out of anger, but because he thought they needed motivating. Imagine explaining that to modern health and safety regulations.
How do you react, though, when someone, from your playing staff comes in and says, "Boss, I think you're doing this wrongly"?
Good. Well, I ask him which way he thinks it should be done. We get down to it, and then we talk about it for 20 minutes, and then we decide I was right.
Clough kissed opponents on the pitch, gave brutal TV interviews, and treated press conferences like personal therapy sessions where everyone else was the therapist.
In the last 9, 10, 12 months or whatever, we've done football proud. I'm not talking about Nottingham Forest, I'm talking about all of football. So I'd like to thank Mr. Monaghan and thank whoever is higher than him. Most of us are. There's a camera on this lad's big head. Because he represents football. He's a charming young man. He scores a goal at White Hart Lane. He doesn't get involved with referees. To the best of my knowledge, he doesn't have a police record. And we are not hooligans. And his dad's a policeman, so be careful.
His most famous quote summed up his entire approach.
"I wouldn't say I was the best manager in the business, but I was in the top 1.
When Nottingham Forest fans invaded the pitch during a crucial match, most managers would have retreated to the tunnel. Clough walked onto the field and started lecturing the supporters about proper behaviour, occasionally slapping the more enthusiastic ones on the head, like a disappointed headmaster.
drunken old bloke in a tracksuit who's punched me in the face.
I will strike you, I will strike you.
If you happen to be passing in front of you, smack!
I think he was just thinking, you know, I'm your daddy, take one.
Actually, I thought it was a Queen's Park Rangers fan who hit me.
I was in shock, and I thought Brian Clough would not be there the next day.
I'm surprised he didn't get a prison sentence for assault or something.
The supporters respected him. Those supporters that he thumped come back and apologise for him for going on his pitch. Now, there's not often you see that.
They had a little press conference afterwards with the bloke that he punched, and he's shaking his hand, and Brian Clough gives him this big, beery kiss.
He let them kiss him on the cheek, which I just thought was genius, absolute genius.
The fans, starstruck by their manager's personal intervention, actually listened and returned to the stands. Clough managed like he was starring in his own reality show, turning every decision into drama and every press conference into a grandiose theatre performance. His teams reflected his personality, brilliant, unpredictable, and absolutely convinced of their own superiority.
If you enjoyed this dive into Premier League chaos, make sure to subscribe because football's weirdest stories are far from over.